Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online Regulation C VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I'm going to be trying out a really fun team featuring EELEKTRIK as well as Iron Thorns. I saw this team, it was used by a senior division player at the Japanese National Championships, and the Electric, the Iron Thorns, as well as a Room Service Great Tusk really caught my eye. The idea behind the EELEKTRIK is that you can use it to decrease opposing special defense via Acid Spray, decrease opposing special attack via Eerie Impulse, Thunderbolt for good damage, especially into things like Iron Bundle, as well as flying Pokemon, and set up the electric terrain for the Iron Thorns. In addition, you have access to Levitate, so it synergizes really nicely with the Great Tusk. This Great Tusk set is really interesting because it's room service and super specially defensive, and so the idea is that you can set up Trick Room using Indeedee or Armarouge, and then Great Tusk can sweep under Trick Room. So it's a really fun team. I'm really excited to try it out. We only have about 2 weeks left of Regulation C before we switch over to Regulation D, and that's going to be really chaotic, but I'm excited to just feature a couple of more fun teams and strategies in the next couple of days as we finish up this format. Thanks so much as always for joining me. If you enjoy, I'd really appreciate it if you consider leaving a like on the video or subscribing to the channel. It really helps out a ton. And as always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, so if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps down below. Anyway, let's get started. Breaking down the team now, as always, Rental, Paste, and the original team creator are all linked down in the description below. The first Pokemon to talk about, of course, is the Eel. Now, Eel, as I mentioned earlier, fulfills a couple of unique niches, and it's mainly kind of meant to just disrupt your opponent. It's not going to deal that much damage, but it will stay on the field for a long period of time, can actually deal pretty good damage into things that are weak to it, such as Iron Bundle or Talonflame, for example. But you're mainly using it for disruption as well as a Levitate user. It synergizes super nicely with Great Tusk with this Room Service. This set is really unique, by the way, right? You've got Room Service and Min Speed as well as Max Special Defense, and so you're going to be surviving a lot of special attacks that your opponents normally will expect to knock you out with. And with Ground Terra plus Eel, often you'll set up Trick Room with Indeedee Armarouge and then just have Great Tusk Eel, and then just be able to spam Earthquake while also disrupting your opponent with Eel. One of the nice things with Tusk is you can pick up knockouts pretty quickly thanks to the Ground Terra plus Headlong Rush, and so Eel can put your opponent in really tough positions where if you've already knocked out everything and they can't switch, Eerie Impulse and Acid Spray can just be huge nuisances for them. So you've also got the electric terrain here, and the electric terrain fulfills two different things. One, it's able to activate the Cork Drive on Iron Thorns, and so you deal more damage because it's attack boosting, which is really nice, and it also just further boosts the damage output of Wild Charge. It's also nice to block opposing spores from Amoonguss, because of course Amoonguss can be pretty annoying, actually will outspeed Great Tusk and Iron Thorns under Trick Room, so it's really cool to see manual electric terrain on this team. We've already talked about the Great Tusk. The main thing to note here is that it doesn't have Protect. Instead, you've got Rock Slide. Otherwise, Headlong Rush, Close Combat, Earthquake are all pretty standard, and Rock Slide just gives you more coverage, but keep that in mind as when you bring this Pokemon out, you'll really want to just push the tempo and try to get knockouts quickly with it. Iron Thorns is the third Pokemon on this team, and this is a loaded dice set. So the idea is that you've got access to some really unique moves in the Rock Blast as well as the Pin Missile, and there are a lot of Pokemon that will just fall to 4 hits of either move. For example, there are a lot of really frail Pokemon that are still common, such as Fluttermane, Iron Bundle, and Chi-Yu. Iron Thorns has a pretty nice matchup into all of those offensively. Obviously, against something like Bundle, you're going to have to be a little bit wary of a Hydro Pump, but the main point is that Thorns can actually get a lot of big one-hit knockouts immediately, and I think Pin Missile in particular is just unique coverage that very few opponents will generally expect, so having a super effective bug move can be really nice into some of those niche psychic type Pokemon that are used. To round things out, you've got the classic Indeedee plus Armarouge duo. Nothing too crazy here. The main thing to note here is that Armarouge has Grass Terra plus Energy Ball rather than Protect, no Wide Guard. Indeedee here also doesn't have Protected Psychic, Follow Me, Helping Hand, and Trick Room, but these are as standard sets as it gets, and this is kind of the go-to lead with this team. In fact, with the team report that I'd read with it, the team creator had almost always suggested Indeedee plus Armarouge. I found it fun to mix things up a little bit. For example, I've led something like Indeedee plus Thorns before, where you pressure with damage as well as Trick Room, or something like Tusk plus Indeedee immediately, but Indeedee Armarouge is really the default lead to go with this team if you're trying it out yourself. Final Pokemon is just Flutter Mane. This is a Focus Sash Fairy Terra variant, and it's pretty standard. The main idea, of course, is to use it to clean up games. You can often go with Indeedee, Armarouge, one of Thorns, and Tusk under Trick Room, and then clean up with Flutter Mane as an example. So, yeah. Overall, this is a more Trick Room oriented team. You don't necessarily need to set up Trick Room to win games, but because everything other than Flutter Mane is so slow, getting Trick Room up generally will be helpful for you. So different modes that you can play with the team. Like I mentioned, check out that team report. It suggests different combinations against different teams. For me, I often go with Indeedee, Armarouge, obviously, and then you go with any two of the three between Thorns, Tusk, and the Eel if you're trying to just dominate under Trick Room. Otherwise, one of Thorns and Tusk and then Flutter Mane is really solid. I've actually led Eel plus Thorns a lot with this team. It's probably not the most consistent, but it's just fun because you can go with something like a Protect into a Electric Terrain, and then Thorns just does a lot of damage with the Quark Drive activated afterwards, for example. Like I mentioned earlier, you could go Indeedee and Thorns, Indeedee plus Tusk as well. One of the things to watch out for is if you bring both Indeedee and Eel into a game, you don't have that much damage output with those two Pokemon, so you have to make sure the remainder two that you bring really carry the battle. But yeah, that's it for a quick breakdown. Now let's highlight some weaknesses. In terms of weaknesses, one of the things that I've struggled against is just Pokemon that are around the same speed tier as things like Thorns and Tusk, even with the Room Service. I think against teams that are also have a Trick Room component, I often find myself a little confused as to whether or not I should be setting up Trick Room or whether or not I should hope when my opponent sets it up for me. Obviously, Wasted and Deny Trick Room can be pretty scary. I played against one team that had Snarl, Chi-Yu plus Imprison Trick Room Farigiraf, and it just completely shut down the Armarouge and Indeedee lead, for example. I think Dondozo is also pretty tricky to go up against, especially the really bulky variants, because the main counterplay against Dondozo is going for something like Acid Spray and then using your special attacks, or going for Thunderbolt slash, Wild Charge, which is super effective. But ultimately, I think a really bulky Dozo can just handle these Pokemon fairly easily while not taking too much damage in return. So that's giving me some trouble. And I think a lot of the games I've lost is kind of on me for not leading optimally and maybe trying to bring Eel out too much. And I think one of the lessons I've learned from playing with this team is like, don't force this Pokemon. Bring it out in the matchups where you feel like you can get good value from it. And that's, matchups where maybe your opponent has one or two really powerful ground type Pokemon. Maybe they have a lot of special attackers, so you really can use Eerie Impulse, or maybe they have an Amoonguss, so you can bring that Electric Terrain. But it doesn't necessarily just fit into all the matchups. And I think a lot of the games I've brought, I just like awkwardly bring Eel, and it just doesn't do very much for me. But leading with this team, I do think it's really important. That's why Indeedee Armarouge is just kind of suggested as the main go-to lead. I do think a lot of the games I've led, I kind of just have not that much offense, but also not that much defense. For example, if you do go with the Thorns Indeedee lead or Tusk Indeedee lead, it can be a little bit awkward where your opponent can just like double up onto Indeedee for a knockout. Then you can't set up Trick Room that easily. And if you have Armarouge in the back, there's no redirection anymore. So you have to be pretty intentional about thinking, if I'm going to try to set up Trick Room, what is my best way to actually accomplish that? But yeah, obviously Wasted and Trick Room, like Taunt, like Imprison, like just knocking, either Pokemon out immediately can cause some trouble. And for Eel, sometimes just leaving it on the field can be pretty beneficial. Ground type Pokemon in particular cause it a lot of trouble because obviously Thunderbolt just doesn't do anything into it, and so you can kind of ignore the Eel while attacking everything around it. I think I had one matchup where I actually went up against an Iron Treads, and it just put on so much pressure against everything else, and Eel just like couldn't really hit it for very much at all. So yeah, that's it for the weaknesses. Let's get into these games. Okay, we have a team I'm very familiar with. This is actually the team that was used by Len Duel throughout the entire season, and I used it for the Fresno Regional Championships. Len's a good friend of mine, and we've practiced against each other throughout the season. Len's got in top 8 at 2 different regionals with this team, and then top 16 at 2 different regionals with it as well. Different variants throughout, but yeah, it's a really strong team. You've got sub-lefties, Garchomp on the original version, Life Orb Flutter, Citrus, Tailwind, Corviknight without Bulk Up, T-Tar Lycanroc with the original version had max HP, max special defense, Tyranitar basically with Assault Vest, and then Iron Bundle. So Eel is walled by Garchomp, but Garchomp also can't really do much to Eel. T-Tar Lycanroc is the lead I generally expect the most. And actually my response to it is normally going with Eel and Tusk. Sorry, not that. Tusk plus Indeedee. Tusk, Indeedee. You in the back. Eel is the 4th. Yeah, basically the idea here is with Tusk plus Indeedee, if you go with the Tyranitar plus Lycanroc, I essentially bait out Tyranitar to Flying Terra on turn 1. Although, actually I'm curious if our opponent here has changed the Terra. Flying is what a lot of people use, but Grass Terra is what exists on the actual version of that team. But it's actually bundled Chomp, so that's really good for Eel. I can bring in Eel pretty easily. I think here, turn 1... the main interesting debate here is... like, Garchomp setting up a sub feels fairly likely. Bundle might just launch Hydro Pump. I personally don't mind going into Eel here and then setting up Trick Room, because then Eel can just safely Thunderbolt into the bundle slot. And we want to conserve Tusk for an endgame against Garchomp. Okay, so Eel's out. Yeah, they just go for Hydro, that's fine. EQ, which is fine. Eel, yeah, Levitate is really nice here. You damage your own bundle. I get crit, which is a little unfortunate, but it's fine. Most important part is getting Trick Room up here. Bundle protecting honestly feels so likely that I am really thinking about going for Acid Spray here and a Psychic. Nice. The thing is, it's like, yeah, I mean, maybe... no, actually, Garchomp can't be protecting here because you move first. But basically, the logic here is like, I really need to get damage onto Garchomp sooner than later, and this combo honestly does a ton. Like, look at this. That almost just KO'd. Yeah, so now they go for Rock Slide, which actually is not on the initial version of the team. It's Dragon Claw sub EQ Protect. But that was a really good turn for us, obviously. And now it's really safe to just launch Thunderbolt into this slot. Tyranitar's the one Pokemon that can switch in that would give me some trouble. So I actually don't mind Thunderbolting and switching out into the Tusk right now. And the reason for that is because like Garchomp might consider a Protect. And Indeedee is not exactly the most offensive Pokemon, especially if Tyranitar switches in for the bundle slot, right? So I basically want to say you have to switch out right now. If you don't switch out, I just KO you. You're in really bad shape. Even if you switch out though, suddenly I just have a great Tusk out in the field against Garchomp, right? Which is pretty good. As well as a potential Tyranitar. Like, I could have gone for a Psychic onto the Garchomp slot there, but Garchomp's not really threatening me with too much here anyway, so I'm fine. But critically, we get the speed drop now, which is really nice, and Garchomp protects. Yeah, Eel is putting in so much work for us here. As Thunderbolt's just going to get the knockout. And this is what I mean, right? Not only do I get the knockout, but now I've positioned my Great Tusk out so I can just safely Earthquake next to my Eel. If you bring out Corviknight, I can just hit that with super effective damage with Thunderbolt, which is really nice. T-Tar Lycanroc. Tusk obviously has a good matchup into as well. I can even set up Electric Terrain for later on in this battle, but it's going to be Flutter Mane coming out. Okay. So I think with Flutter Mane, there's 2 turns of Trick Room left. This turn is interesting. Basically, the question is, does my opponent have Corviknight as their final Pokemon, or is it one of Tyranitar and Lycanroc? Because basically right now it's really easy for me to just say Ground Terra. I think I like just going for Thunderbolt on a Garchomp. Ground Terra and EQ. And they stay in. Okay, cool. You might be wondering why I went for that, right? Basically, I think there's a world in which my opponent can stall out my Trick Room effectively by protecting Flutter Mane and then switching the Garchomp out into a Corviknight. This play covers for that, essentially, and it also covers for them just staying in with their Pokemon. Flutter Mane protects, which is perfect. The downside here is I didn't actually probably need to commit my Terra, but with one more turn of Trick Room, what I can do this next turn is just double up onto the Flutter Mane. So even though that Thunderbolt looks a little bit weird, in my head I was like, okay, the worst case would be Garchomp switching out, probably, and then the Flutter Mane survives the Ground Terra EQ. I don't even know if it does. I don't know how much defense investment and HP investment my opponent's running on that slot. But, yeah. In my head, I was like, okay, well, the only way you could really, like, completely bypass the turn here is if you switch into Corviknight. So, as long as I cover for that, I feel pretty good about my spot. Lycanroc's their last Pokemon. My opponent's really going to need a double protect right now, I think, to have a shot at winning this. So what do we want to do here? This definitely has to protect. I think Flutter basically has to also go for a double. I'm going to actually set up the electric terrain to enable this to do more damage. They have not Terra'd yet. So Lycanroc could have a good defensive Terra. But yeah, I'm happy to just go for electric terrain here and then just go for Headlong Rush to guarantee the knockout on a Flutter main. Ah, Lycanroc actually goes for Endure. Okay, cool. Flutter does get the double, though. Alright, that makes this thing more interesting. This is actually also why I didn't want to just KO Lycanroc here. I was expecting to just protect. I didn't talk about Endure during the turn, but basically, Endure was really smart by my opponent there because it would have allowed them to then get down to 1 HP and then KO, like start doing damage with Endure, right? Sorry, with Endeavor. But because I denied them the ability to actually get down to 1 HP, even with them getting the double, we're still in pretty good shape. And Tusk is really bulky here, so I think we should still be okay. Electric Terrain is set up. Should be Sash on Lycanroc. But I'm happy to just Headlong Rush this. Lycanroc isn't a huge threat in a 1v1 scenario. So let's just go for T-Bolt plus Headlong Rush. Finally, there's going to be a Terra. I expect this to be Fairy Terra. I actually think in retrospect, Acid Spray was better there onto Flutter. I think Protect and Acid Spray was the stronger play there. I don't expect them to honestly knock out Tusk here because it's such a specially defensive Tusk, but let's find out. Oh, actually with Dazzling Gleam, this is definitely not going to get the knockout because we're so bulky. Nice. We even hang on with Eel. Actually, does this KO? Yeah, I didn't think so, but that was a little close. But that's the cool thing about this Tusk, right? It's way bulkier than people generally anticipate. So we'll get Headlong Rush here. That'll be enough to KO the Flutter. I could have gone for Earthquake there, of course. There's actually no reason to not Earthquake there, I guess, other than worrying about Endure Lycanroc. And my opponent had revealed that earlier, but in my head, I was like, if I KO Flutter, I just win the game. But I do think maybe Acid Spray was the smarter play there, just to cover for one of those two moves critting into the Tusk. And look how much Thunderbolt does there into Lycanroc. Oh my goodness. So they're just going to click Rock Slide here, right? The most optimal play... Because they actually could, like, I don't want to just give them 2 knockouts for free, right? And then be able to Rock Slide spam flinch both of what I have in the back. So the right play, I think, is to actually just switch in right now. And then click Close Combat here. Sacrifice the Tusk. Then I'll have NDD plus the Iron Thorns out next to each other. I guess, granted, it probably doesn't make that much of a difference anyway. Like, they would need to just have infinite flinches right now. So maybe it's fine to actually just double sack there, because in doing this, I give them a free Rock Slide. But the idea is now I bring out NDD, and you have to click Rock Slide. You can't click Close Combat. And I have multiple Pokemon that can just KO the Lycanroc. So you're going to need 2 double flinches right now to stay in this. Because Rock Slide's not KOing either Mon right now. Okay. We'll just Wild Charge here. Better to set up Trick Room in case they try to go for some Endure shenanigans, but it's just Close Combat. That's fine. That doesn't even KO us. We get Trick Room and we'll KO in return. So, nice. I think this game highlighted a lot of Eel's value. It, gives us the immunity to ground type attacks, allowing me to safely Earthquake next to my Great Tusk. It allows me to... And in that endgame, yeah, I think I would have been fine. With the ground terror, I would have been fine just clicking EQ. I just wanted to make sure, like, in case they were max HP, max defense Flutter. But even with that, I'm not sure you survive ground terror EQ from Tusk. But in my head, like, there was no way my opponent was ever winning if the Flutter went down. So that's why I was prioritizing KOing that. But that game highlighted a lot of Eel's values, right? It was able to Acid Spray to actually allow my other special attacker in the Flutter main, in the NDD to do meaningful damage. It was able to Thunderbolt to just KO the Iron Bundle as well. Stayed on the field for so long. And most importantly, it gave me something that I could safely have next to the Great Tusk. We have the team that won the Portland Regional Championships. If it's the same version, then it's Specs on the Flutter, Covert Cloak, Jumpluff, Eject Pack Torkoal with Overheat Helping Hand Fisher, AV, Terra Blast, Fire King Gambit, Sash Chien-Pao, and Scarf Tusk. Generally, I think Trick Room has a really good matchup here. The main thing is how do we successfully set it up? It's probably something like an Infinity Armor Rouge lead. Gambit is then the thing to be scared about. To which we could use Tusk. Just wondering if there's a world in which I don't actually bring Entity, because I'd love to bring Eel as well. Yeah, something like... I mean, if I were my opponent, what would I lead? I guess you could go like Flutter Torkoal, but then Helping Hand Shadow Ball, I'm not sure that's even a KO. I'm pretty intrigued by the Armor Rouge plus just the Iron Treads, and then Electric plus Great Tusk in the back. I don't... Flutter's interesting here, mainly because of Sash, right? So I can actually take a hit and retaliate back, which is pretty valuable into a double choice team with Specs on Flutter and then Scarf on Great Tusk. But my game plan here ideally is I'm hoping that Iron Thorns applies enough offensive pressure that my opponent kind of ignores the Armor Rouge. Chien-Pao Flutter. Okay. Ah, this is super interesting. Because it's pretty easy to just knock something out with this immediately. If I were my opponent, I would honestly double up onto Armor Rouge with like Spec Shadow Ball plus a Ice Spinner. Could just Sacred Sword this. It could be Dazzling Sacred Sword. Like, I could also just Terra here, Trick Room, and then just Rock Blast as well. Or actually Pin Missile. They're going to go for a Terra. Okay. Might just be Fairy Terra then. Oh, Chien-Pao goes for the Terra. Fire Terra. Wow. That's actually going to be pretty handy against us here. The main question, though, is did you double up onto Flutter? Because if Flutter gets up Trick Room, then it's honestly fine. I'm happy with how turn 1 played out. But I honestly didn't think Chien-Pao would Terra there, because Rock Blast would have just crushed it. So I guess I could have covered for Fire Terra there, but Fire Terra isn't even that common on Chien-Pao, honestly. Okay, it is Shadow Ball. Yep. Did you double up into that slot? Now is the ultimate question. They did not. Nice. They spin her into T-Tar. Sweet. It is just a little bit sad because Rock Blast would have absolutely demolished things there, but that's okay. Okay. And Armor Rouge will set up Trick Room. So here we know that Flutter is spexed. It could switch into Tusk, could switch into Gambit. I personally want to switch Armor Rouge out into Eel. And then go for a Rock Blast onto Flutter. In an ideal world, Flutter stays in, Chien-Pao protects, and I just KO the Flutter. But let's see. I'm just glad they didn't double up onto Armor Rouge on turn 1. Okay, Flutter does switch. Then the question is, does Chien-Pao protect here? Oh, they actually bring out Torkoal. Okay, I'm happy with that. Rock Blast going into that slot's obviously pretty nice. Nice, Chien-Pao protects. Oh, that puts us in really good shape, I think. Because this next turn I can just Rock Blast into the... Oh, we might just KO Torkoal here, honestly, as well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we do. So we're taking advantage of Chien-Pao dropping my opponent's defense there, as Rock Blast just secures the knockout. Nice. I was surprised to see Spinner instead of Sacred Sword on turn 1, but I think my opponent was expecting maybe the Flying Terra to come out from the Iron Thorns instead. Gambit comes out now. Okay. With Gambit, you do have the ability to double Sucker Punch me right now, which is a little bit scary. Yeah, if I were them, honestly, I would just double Sucker here. So then it makes me wonder, should I consider switching out here, or do I just sacrifice this? Because it's pretty free to switch out into Tusk right now. I'm fine just going for a Thunderbolt here. Yeah, I think it's fine if they double up into me, because then I just bring out Room Service Tusk. So I'll just T-Bolt here and Rock Blast into this. And they don't go for the Sucker Punch. Nice. So T-Bolt does some nice chip. Rock Blast will just finish things off here. I didn't want to overpredict there, and because I knew I had Room Service Great Tusk in the back, I figured even if they doubled up onto the Iron Treads for a KO, Iron Thorns for a KO, Great Tusk just comes in, and that because it's Assault Vest King Gambit, I can just have a very free headlong rush into that slot. So they go for a low kick, but that's more than okay. Beautiful. With that now, we can bring out this. We know they've already committed their Terra. We have Room Service here. So, and Flutter Mane should be choice back. So we just target the Flutter Mane, and that should just guarantee us the victory here. And because we have EO out, actually, I can just Earthquake here. And this is one of the really nice things about having EO, right? Like, the nice thing about it in this game is it's just like a bulky Pokemon that can tank up Earthquake. It can, yeah, basically be immune to Earthquake while also dishing out Thunderbolts. I had the ability to go for Electric Terrain, but I didn't really think it made a difference in this battle. So, yeah, I think here I'm just going to go for Thunderbolt onto that and Earthquake. And that should just be a double KO. They actually just end up forfeiting, so, yeah. We bring out Electric, and we get a win on the board with it. I think that it enables for some really interesting combinations. To me, the most important turn of this game was just turn 1. After turn 1, I felt really good about our position, and the fact they brought Torkoal, and the fact that Rock Blast was able to just get that KO was also really, really nice. So turn 1 could have been really scary, because I think my opponent had the ability to double up onto either slot for a potential knockout, but in my head, I was like, I think that turn 1 actually would have played out really poorly if they ended up Ice Spinnering into the Armarouge, just because it was actually Fire Terra on the Chien-Pao, which I should have considered a little bit more of. I don't remember if it was Fire Terra on the original team. I honestly don't think it was Flying Terra on the original team. Yeah. But I guess because Flying Terra was on the original team, Rock Blast would have just been more optimal of a play anyway, so I should have just gone for that instead. But yeah, I think if I like trade turn 1 Chien-Pao for the Armarouge is actually not too bad, because then I can actually just bring out Electric and then like target down the Flutter Mane slot and then use Tusk in the end game against Gambit. But because they had Fire Terror, if they actually doubled up onto Armarouge, that could have been really bad. But of course, for my opponent, doubling up is risky, because then I could just protect the Armarouge and get a KO with Rock Blast onto either slot, for example. But Eel was nice for this end game, just to know that I could safely Earthquake, and also just being able to confuse my opponent a little bit as well. We've got Bruxish plus Colossal, Dragonite, Chien-Pao, bundle plus Abomasnow. I'm laughing because I had featured Bruxish and Cole recently on the channel. It's actually a really fun duo, so if you want to see me use that combination, check out the video link down in the description below. I don't remember if it was the exact same team as the one we are up against here, but basically this team was used in like the Japanese national championship qualifiers, and yeah, it was really scary. I believe actually it is the same team. I'm looking at that old video, and it's the Pokemon are in the same order. So the main thing is that like priority doesn't really stop the Bruxish, or like it's really foolproof to enable Colossal, and it's physical Colossal as well. What is interesting is that the Colossal is Ground Terra. So, if I want to set up Trick Room, for example, I could just go into the Armarouge and just Grass Terra and Trick Room. I don't think they have a really good answer into that, quite frankly. You in the back. Yeah, that feels fine. Tusk is technically better here, but I want to bring Eel, because how often do we get to use Eel? Like, it's, however, I think this is a good example of, like, me going out of my way to really try to use the Pokemon as much as I can versus not objectively picking, or, yeah, like, I'm choosing it over objectively what I think is a better pick. That being said, I think you can still make an argument for Eel. They're going to go with Bundle and Abomasnow. So this is actually pretty interesting, because it's Specs Bundle. So I think I'm actually better off not going for a Terra here, because I actually expect them to just click Blizzard straight up. And I think just going for Expanding Force here You know, what's actually really interesting here is I think if I get Trick Room up, I just win the game, right? So the question is, how do I actually just get Trick Room up? Actually, yeah, I think here I'm happy to just Expanding Force and Trick Room. Basically, the logic here is you'll get 1 KO, but you won't knock out both Pokemon. They actually do target the Armor Rouge. Okay. So Follow Me Expanding Force would have been fine there. But yeah, I really didn't want to just go for like Grass Terra, and I thought because of Follow Me, they would have been more inclined to think about clicking, yeah, more inclined to clicking the Blizzard instead. So I can bring out Eel now. Or I can bring this out and pin Missile. I don't mind bringing Eel out. Bombasnow doesn't scare me that much. It's Blizzard, Helping Hand, Leaf Storm. I think I can just go for... I kind of want to Electric Terra here. I could see a world in which this Ice Terra is honestly the Helping Hand Blizzard. But I think Thunderbolt plus Psychic into that slot is always really safe. Yeah, they're going for it. But I don't think you survive this double up. Oh, it's a Bombasnow going for Terra. Why? That one confuses me a little bit because that just makes you weak now to electric type attacks. Okay, I'll take it. Ooh, Bundle actually has enough special defense to survive. That's a little scary, but that's fine. The main thing that's a little bit nerve-wracking in this game is being open to freezes from the Abomasnow. But basically, in my head, I figured if I set up Trick Room, I could just keep attacking around Abomasnow and then win the game that way. But I haven't done a great job playing around freezes. I think turn 1 Follow Me Expanding Force is honestly really safe as well. I just was like, if I get Trick Room up in this game, I should be in incredible shape. They bring out Cole, but Cole isn't activated, so it's not that scary. We have this in the back. You've already Terra'd. There's no way Helping Hand Thunderbolt just KOs here, right? Yeah, there's no way. I would be shocked. How many turns of Trick Room are left? 3? We want to push the tempo here. Okay, I'm actually down to Helping Hand T-Bolt. I could see Cole protecting. Nope, they actually went completely opposite. They went for their own Helping Hand. Okay. This is such an amusing game, honestly. That does KO! That was a crit. I don't think we KO without the crit, but if I had gone for Electric Terror, I would have. Maybe I should have done that then, actually. Yeah. Oh, they actually just went for Earthquake. That's kind of a... They probably forgot about Levitate from Meal, honestly. Because otherwise, I just don't think that's a super optimal play, because you would end up damaging your own Abomasnow as well. I thought it would be Helping Hand Rock Slide for sure. Bruxage is the last one, so they can Aqua Jet to activate the Weakness Policy and then Rock Slide. Which is pretty scary. I don't have a way around the self-Aqua Jet right now. I have you in the back. You're going to self-Aqua Jet, activate Weakness Policy. I think I honestly just T-Bolt and Psychic here. Oh, they didn't go for Surf. Or sorry, Aqua Jet. That is surprising. I guess they're going for Surf here. I see. But you did so much damage to yourself. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Like, I thought it would have made more sense to Aqua Jet so you do more damage with the Rock Slide or a Flare Blitz. But there's still one more turn of Trick Room right now, so you would think this has to protect. right? But is there a world in which they don't protect and they just attack with both Mons? I think that's also a possibility. I still haven't even Terra'd yet, by the way. I think electric Terraing here is the right move. Yeah, electric Terra you, Thunderbolt into you. Wild Charge into you for a guaranteed KO. And then it's a 2v1 and I basically need to just dodge Rock Slide flinches. I'm not even sure +2 Rock Slide KOs Eel from this range. But I'm just happy to have gotten a game where I Terra'd this. Yeah, they do protect, but that's fine. Okay. Like, I'm not going to Terra the Treads at this point. Oh, there's Wild Charge. That's a KO. Cool. So it's a 2v1 against Colosso. I think they essentially need Rock Slide to double flinch right now. I don't think you actually KO either Mon with Rock Slide. Maybe you KO Eel, honestly, but I don't know. Eel's decently bulky. 83 HP, I would expect to survive. So, T-Bolt and Wild Charge. There's Rock Slide. Yep, both survive. Flinch. But Eel does not flinch, and it delivers the finishing blow with an Electric Terra boosted Thunderbolt. I actually think I should have Terra'd it earlier to guarantee the knockout onto Abomasnow with Helping Hand Electric Terra T-Bolt. Because that crit did change things a little bit. The thing is, I didn't necessarily want that crit because it allowed my opponent to get in Bruxish sooner. And I thought my opponent could have like increased their damage output if they had click Aqua Jet rather than Surf. I thought Aqua Jet would have been a better play there. But yeah, I think I did not play super well in this game. I think I missed out on a bunch of different opportunities, such as turn 1. Like I said, I think Follow Me Trick Room was probably fine. I was just like, oh, like they're going to read into Grass Terror or something and click Blizzard. But yeah, if I had just gone for Follow Me Trick Room, then Expanding Force spam plus the Iron Thorns would have looked really good. And they didn't really have any counterplay once Trick Room went up to Armor Rouge spamming Expanding Force. So this was me having a lot of really good tools and an incredible matchup and honestly not executing it super well. But I'm just really glad to have brought out Eel and got it. A one-hit KO onto Abomasnow with it, as well as obviously doing like 90% to Iron Bundle. Okay, we've got Solo Dozo here with Mousehold, Golden Go, Dragonite, Xianpao, and Tinglu. I think one of the things respect is just Mousehold plus Golden Go, like Water Terra. Nasty Plot. Electric's pretty good into Golden Go, honestly. We've got Flying Terra with Pin Missile here, which is also solid. You know, part of me is thinking of leading Tusk plus Electric here, just for early damage output. It's weird, because then I'm not like really setting up Trick Room, right? I definitely want Thorns. And then between Indeedee and Armor Rouge, I actually prefer Indeedee here because it's bulkier and can help me set up Trick Room a little bit easier. So the idea behind Electric plus Tusk is if they lead, for example, Mousehold plus Golden Go, I can just close combat, which is pretty nice. Or I could just go for Earthquake immediately. That's also a possibility. It is Mouse and Golden Go. Okay. Yeah, so I think the main thing here to think about is who are they going to Terra? Also, what items do we think they have on both Pokemon, right? I normally expect Nasty Plot here. With Good as Gold, I don't think we can actually Eerie Impulse it. Water Terra here certainly makes sense. I'm like leading this to hope to bait them to Terra here. I'm going to close combat, switch out into Indeedee, but I think one other play that I could have gone for was to have gone for close combat, or sorry, Headlong Rush plus Thunderbolt onto the Golden Go slot. But if we can just eliminate Mousehold on turn 1, I think that's also not terrible for me. Golden Go Protect here would be my dream. Pop Bomb Mouse and a crit, but okay, I should still survive here. The problem is Golden Go going just for a Make It Rain? Yeah, we do survive that. Oh, man. You know, the other thing is if they... because they didn't even KO with Pop Bomb there, so if I were just normal Tusk, I would have been able to just KO with EQ. That's a nice bluff, though, in Team Preview, because now when people see Mouse Golden Gold, they almost always assume it's, like, bulky Mouse. I don't really think I can come back from that. So you just Pop Bomb into NDD now, and just Make It Rain again. So I would need to KO the Mouse Hold, switch the NDD out into Electric. I just don't see how I'm getting a Trick Room up in this game, but I'll try at least. Do I just Terra here immediately? Yeah, I think so. Who else am I going to Terra in this game? So Terra, Pin Missile into you, switch this into Electric. The other play is to hope for a miss. I don't hate that, actually. Because if I get Trick Room up here, actually, it's very salvageable. Like, how else am I going to get Trick Room up anyway, right? So Terra, Pin Missile, and just go for Trick Room. Yeah, I would have never expected Pop Bomb there, so, you know, that's the strength of best of one stuff. Dragonite. Yeah, if they miss a Pop Bomb here, or for some reason don't target Entity and I get Trick Room up, this is actually still totally doable. I didn't really have a response to their turn one, though, leading Electric here. The whole point of Electric was to make them think, hey, like, you should be scared of Earthquake plus the Levitate combo. Yeah, they just bomb into ND. Sadly, no misses. Okay. I don't think I can win from that position, but I'll still try. It's probably Specs Golden Go, you would imagine, right? Yeah, Pop Bomb Mouse Hold just kind of crushes our team. The only response to it is honestly the... Flutter would be what I would respond with, actually, in a best of 3. The problem is I don't know, like, what the item on Golden Go was. It's probably not Scarf, though, right? Okay, I actually don't want to give up quite yet. Like, a Rock Blast and a Thunderbolt here, if we were to somehow pick up a double KO, would maybe bring things back into our favor. Yeah, this is just a game where it's really hard to win off best of 1. Like, Population Bomb Mouse Hold is just a game changer in general, right? Let's see if they actually get this knockout, though. Yeah, I think they will. Not a single miss, sadly. It was, what, 25 hits of Population Bomb in total? What are the odds of that? It's 0.99, assuming they're wide lens. So 25th power, which is, if you're curious, 78%. So still pretty damn high. So we'll get the knockout on a Dragonite, but yeah, Population Bomb Mouse Hold just cleans this team if I don't bring the Flutter main. And it's a very, very nice lead by my opponent. I thought I was so big brain going with the Electric plus the Tusk combo, but my opponent was one step ahead of me there. So nicely countered. They'll bring out Flutter, or no, Chimpow. Yeah. With the defense drop, really not much I can do there. So now, if I were to replay this, knowing their Population Bomb Mouse and not Scarf Golden Go, what would I do? I would consider leading just NDD Armor Rouge, because with that, what I could do is... See, they didn't bring Tinglu or Dozo, right? They really lead into just, like, full offense. So given the 4 that my opponent brought, if I went with NDD plus the Armor Rouge, what I could do is just go for Follow Me plus Grass Terra Trick Room turn 1, then bring out my Great Tusk, and then I'll have Armor Rouge under Trick Room, Great Tusk with the speed drop, as well as a Iron Thorns in the back. So that's the adjustment I would make in a best of 3. But right now, what's most meta is just regular support Mouse Hold plus Nasty Plot, Water Terra Leftovers Golden Go. So that's what I was expecting from my opponent, and then they just end up completely not being that at all. But once again, like, that's good team building, right? Because in best of one, a lot of your opponents are going to assume that's what you have, just because that's what's basically most meta. So, yeah. Ooh, Grim Garganackle, Annihilate, Shampoo, Flutter, and Glamora. I played against one Garganackle team while using this team for practice, and Eel was actually really good for Eerie Impulse stuff. They have dual darks. If I were them, I'd probably lead Grim. Grim Garganackle is pretty scary. I want to KO Grim so it only gets one screen up. I think a Flutter lead here is actually appropriate. Flutter. Maybe Flutter in the back. But if I don't lead Flutter, I can't KO it. Oh, sorry, yeah, I think I want to apply pressure with Flutter early. But do I really? I feel like I need a Trick Room user. Like, I should be setting up Trick Room here, no? I'm going to go with this. I don't know if Eel's the best bring in this one, but I'm bringing it because I want it to Eerie Impulse. Sorry, not Eerie Impulse. Acid Spray Garganackle. Because I think there's an end game where, like, we KO everything around Garganackle, and then I just Acid Spray Garg a bunch, and Thunderbolt just does increasingly more damage. Grim Flutter. Okay. I don't really want to burn my Terra yet. I was saying how I wanted to prevent Grim from setting up both screens, but I think in this case it might be okay if I go... like, if you're my opponent, what would you set up here? I'd probably set up Reflect, honestly, because what I want to do is protect here and actually just Rock Blast. I'm down for this. Oh. Okay, it's fine. They just Shadow Balled. But it's been a long time since I've seen Fake Out Grim. Because you normally want to run dual screens, Parting Shot, and Spirit Break. I'm honestly thinking about switching out into Eel, but I think there's another world in which I just like Fairy Terra, Moonblast, and Rock Blast here. What else would I use my Terra on in this battle? They don't really have ground type attacks. I don't hate it, but it could be Sash, Grim. I'm gonna go for it. Moonblast, Rock Blast. I just like have so much offensive pressure right now. I kind of want to push the tempo. I thought about switching out into Eel, but I was like, okay, then I have Eel and Thorns out. What am I doing with that combo, right? Here's the Terra. Alright, they just go for Light Screen. That's fine. Shadow Ball again. We also outspeed, which is good to know. Doesn't KO Grim. Enough bulk to survive. Oh, wow. Shadow Ball goes into Thorns. Okay. I think that's a great turn. That looks like Specs damage to me. Unfortunately, Rock Blast doesn't miss. So 4 hits should get the KO here without a Reflect up. 3. Very nice. Honestly, great turn. Like, I still have my Focus Sash intact, which is really nice. I'm not as worried about a late game Garganackle because of the Eel that we've brought into this battle. Being able to Eerie Impulse... No, I keep saying Eerie Impulse. Being able to Acid Spray is really, really nice. And then I also have Tusk, so it's like Tusk might force them to Terra, but if you are Ghost Terra, then we can just hit you with super effective with Shadow Ball. So I'm curious what move Grimmsnarls decided to drop. Okay, they do bring out Garganackle. Yeah, so with Gargo, I actually don't mind I don't mind switching into... Do I want to switch into Eel? I could just protect. I think like protecting here and then just KOing Grimmsnarl is fine. Yeah, that's fine. So we'll KO Grim. We'll be up 2-4. That was kind of the plan all along. My plan was to use Eel in the late game to just Acid Spray a bunch. The turn 1 fake out totally caught me off guard, though. I could have gone Fairy Terror and just Moonblasted Grim on turn 1. Maybe I should have prevented both screens from going up, but... And I saw Kier here, too. Like, I'm generally okay with that, but... us surviving is actually not great, because it denies me a free switch in. So let's see what comes out. Annihilate? Fire Terror Annihilate? Could be pretty scary. It is indeed Annihilate. This is getting a little spooky, I'm not gonna lie. That was a very nice predict into this last turn. And I was hoping it would get the KO, because the KO would be great. I'd just bring out Tusk and then switch in Eel. You would think Annihilate Terras now. Maybe Fire Terra. I want to switch into Eel here. And go for a Wild Charge onto Annihilate. It could be Water Terra as well, which would make sense against Dondozo teams. Rock Blast is a little bit risky because I like stack up Rage Fist really quickly for my opponent, which is not good. Oh, they just actually just protect. Okay, I mean, that's fine. Hopefully a double protect. Nope. But I've got an Eel out, so I can go for the play I was talking about. That being said, their Salt Cure targeting has been excellent so far. Like, they're 2 for 2. I mean, I guess this turn it was like the obvious target, right? By not, yeah, messing up last turn, that put me in a trickier spot this turn as well. But I still have my Focus Ashen intact, which is a really important part of all of this. Honestly, both screens being up right now makes this really challenging. And then not having Terra yet also makes this more challenging. I think I want to bring out Tusk here first. Because they did a good job of like setting up the screens a little bit later on as well. Yeah, there's still so many turns I gotta work through. I want to go for Acid Spray and Headlong Rush into Garganackle. Nice, they wide guard, that's fine. A single Acid Spray now means Flutter can take care of them. Basically, yeah, so like you can bulk up all you want, that's fine. The thing is that Flutter is still applying a lot of pressure with Moonblast, which is kind of how I'm seeing it. Oh, that does so much damage, wow. Okay, nice. That's huge. We've seen Wide Guard, Salt Cure, Recover. Protect is normally the final move. But the fact that Headlong Rush does that much is a good sign. Now my question is, does 2 Drain Punches KO Tusk from my HP range? It'll be 3 turns of Light Screen after this one. Eerie Impulse, Electric Train, neither of these really do anything for me. Thunderbolt actually stacks up Rage Fist. Acid Spray is interesting because it gets you down to -2. The problem is it activates Defiant. And what I really don't want to happen right now is Garganackle Protect, I activate Defiant. This is one of those weird scenarios where I actually don't want to click anything. I guess T-Bolt into Annihilate is fine, but I don't know if it's actually worth giving them a Rage Fist stack. Yeah, I'm actually just gonna electric terrain here. Headlong Rush. And they wide guard again. Okay, nice. I feel pretty good about the position then, given that I still have a Sash Flutter in the back. Yeah, and they Drain Punch. Cool. Now I'm willing to actually click Acid Spray onto Annihilate. And the reason for that is because at this point I don't care about Defiant, given that I have Focus Sash on the Flutter anyway. So I click Acid Spray, I bring out Flutter, and I just Moonblast. If they Terra, then I Shadow Ball the next turn. But I didn't want to click the Acid Spray this turn because, yeah, I think my opponent, like, they could have gone for Protect with Garg instead and tried that. Protect with Garg, Drain Punch, because Drain Punch was actually a 2-hit KO onto Tusk. That was the main thing I was wondering about. So now let's double check the field state. 3 turns of Light Screen. But yeah, I think I can Acid Spray now into Headlong Rush. And because I have Focus Sash on Flutter, at -2 special defense, even though I'm activating Defiant, I should be able to KO you with a combination of Moonblast plus Shadow Ball. So they just Drain Punch again. That's fine. This is exactly why I brought the Eel into the matchup, though, because I think, like, for example, if I brought Armor Rouge, yeah, maybe I have a little bit more offense, but Wide Guard completely stops that offense, which is actually really bad for me. So this is a weird scenario where we're intentionally activating Defiant, but I'm okay with that. 81 down to 60. Okay, now we bring out Flutter. They're at -2 special defense. We have Focus Sash intact. We've gone to Fairy Terra. They haven't Terra'd yet. 2 turns of Light Screen. Yeah, Acid Spray plus Moonblast here. Like, they should Terra here. Oh, they actually don't Terra. Okay, makes sense. You get more Salt here onto Eel. And you're scouting for Protect on my end as well. So the expectation is that they Terra this next turn, but because I have Focus Sash, like, what are you going to Terra into, right? If you go for Fire Terra, that's fine. Because the other question is, like, are you going to let Eel just get another Acid Spray into you as well, right? But Shadow Ball should just do the trick next turn. Okay. Yep, they Rage Fist, and we have Focus Sash, and now I get you down to -4. So that was the plan this whole time. Perfect. So really unique solution to a very unique problem. But we should end up winning this game just on 1 HP, basically, more or less. Yeah, also just Shadow Ball there. Yep, Annihilate protects, Eel will faint, and Flutter will deliver the finishing blow with Shadow Ball. Cool. I mean, it's -4 Annihilate, and there's no more Light Screen, so should be enough to get the KO. Reflect this off, but that's not really relevant. It could be argued it was more optimal that turn where they Rage Fisted to have just protected Flutter and gone for Acid Spray, but yeah, I figured it doesn't make a difference anyway. Because it was always just going to be a Moonblast into a Shadow Ball. Yeah, it's just like I didn't see any world in which Annihilate is ever surviving the combination, no matter what Terra they were. We just needed to get the Terra, but I figured I covered for all options there, so it ended up being fine. But yeah, that was a really interesting game. If we weren't Sash there, obviously I would have lost, and ultimately what was important in this game was actually stalling out all of Light Screen and then bringing the Eel to actually get Acid Spray off. So this game highlights Eel in a different manner, whereas the previous matches, maybe it was more about Eel, being a ground immunity. In this one, it was very specifically saying, hey, my opponent's team is really bulky. I need to bring the Eel to be able to lower my opponent's special defense so I can deal more damage. And that was really critical to getting us over the finish line. That's going to be it for this video, so thank you so much as always for joining me. I had a lot of fun using this team. I feel like I definitely didn't play it perfectly, partially because I was just trying to bring Eel into so many of the different games and understanding how it could actually work, but it is just fun to use such a obscure and unique Pokemon, and I think we got some pretty good games out of it as well. So thanks for joining me. Leave a like if you enjoy, and I'll catch you all soon. All right, peace.